Hey YouTube, Kiratwig here, bringing you all an update to my Skull Servant Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for Post-Alliance Insight. We got a bunch of awesome new Skull Servant cards in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster pack. I think it's been a while since we've actually had two Skull Servant cards in one booster set. We've slowly gotten support with like one card at a time in booster sets over the years, but giving us two awesome cards to really power up this deck. And I wanted to go with the 60 card variant for the deck. I find it to be the most fun deck to build for Skull Servants, along with some of the other changes that happened with the most recent ban list to help with the overall power of the deck. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll start off with the newest monster of the deck being Moisa White. This card's name becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard. If this card's normal or special summon, you can add one Skull Servant or one card that mentions it from your deck to your hand, except for Moisa White. Also, you can add special summon for the rest of this turn, except zombie monsters. You can only use this effect of Moisa White once per turn, and during your main phase, you can normal summon one level 4 or lower zombie monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. Being able just to have search power in the deck also gives us access to some of the new cards in the deck, including the White Reanimator, since it does have Skull Servant in the name to be able to make use of with this spell. And we're also running 3 copies of the original Skull Servant because the big play in this deck just comes down to having a wide variety of Skull Servant or King of the Skull Servant in the graveyard. So having the original monster as one of the cards to send off to the graveyard with cards like That Grass Looks Greener makes it all the better to use in the deck. We're also running 3 copies of the King of Skull Servants with this card. The original attack of this card is the combined number of King of Skull Servants and Skull Servants in the graveyard times 1,000. And when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can banish one other King of Skull Servants or one Skull Servant from your graveyard to special summon this card. So the more Skull Servant support we get, that just continues to make them become Skull Servant while in the graveyard, makes it so we can hit newer and newer power levels with King of the Skull Servant as well. So running 3 of this card just to always have the boss monster of the deck ready to use. And the new spell also grants it piercing battle damage, making it all the scarier for your opponent to go up against, even if they go on the defensive. We're also running 3 copies of White Baking. This card's name becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard. If a level 3 or lower zombie monster would be destroyed by battle or Carvec, you could discard this card instead. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add 2 monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, except for White Baking, that are either Skull Servant, specifically listed in their text, then discard 1 card. Having more search power with this card as well, but also just with the added search and setup with this card, being able to give you more option with monsters, adding a specific one and then discarding another one from your hand to your graveyard. We're also running 3 copies of White Lord. This card's name becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard. You can only use the following effects of White Lord once per turn. If you have Skull Servant or King of the Skull Servants in your graveyard, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard up to the number of Skull Servants and King of Skull Servants in your graveyard. And you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a Skull Servant or King of Skull Servants in your graveyard and special summon it. So we are running a 60 card deck, making it all the better for the more different Skull Servants we have set up in our graveyard for us to use for the mill power of White Lord on top of the special summon power to get King of the Skull Servants back onto the field to use as well. We're also running 3 copies of White Prince. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send 1 Skull Servant and 1 Lady in White from your hand and or deck to the graveyard, to then also giving you more of that setup for those monsters. You can banish 2 Skull Servants in this card in your graveyard to special summon a King of the Skull Servants from your deck. So having a card that can actually grab King of the Skull Servants from our deck just gives us more of a graveyard banish setup to use in the form of this card just when it's sent to the graveyard, giving us 2 additional monster setups, including the original Skull Servant and then the Lady in White as well. We're also running 3 copies of White Princess. If this card's name becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard, and if it's normal or special summon, you can send 1 White Prince from your deck to the graveyard. Quick effect, you could send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to have all monsters on the field currently lose attack and defense equal to their own level or rank times 300. So making your opponent's monsters weaker for your bigger monsters to be able to swing over them. And then also this card just being able to send White Prince sets up the play that we mentioned previously with that card also. We're winding down on the Skull Servant monsters, 3 copies of our White Mare as well. This card's name becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard. You can discard this card, activate one of the following effects. Target one of your banished Skull Servants or White Mare, return it to the graveyard, or target one of your banished Lady in White or King of the Skull Servants and special summon it. Just having more special summon power with this card as well, being able to grab those resources back to the field while setting up another Skull Servant in the graveyard, with the last being a 2 of Lady in White. If you wanted to go for the all-out 3 of, you can discard or drop some of the danger package to run a 3rd copy of this card as well. Face up up level 3 or lower zombie monsters you control, except Lady in White, cannot be destroyed by battle, and are unaffected by the effects of spell or trap cards. And this card becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard as well. One of the few monsters like White Princess that is not a level 1 for all of the different White Mare and Skull Servant monsters we run in the deck. For more generic support, we're also running 3 copies of Mizuki, just as another zombie monster to banish from the graveyard to target a zombie monster in our graveyard and special summon. So once again, just having resources to grab our main go-to boss monster back from the graveyard to the field. And then the danger package that I mentioned before, fresh off the ban list, being the 3 Jackalope, the 3 Tsuchinoko, and then we're also running additionally the 3 Nessie to have all the discard and special summon power in the form of these monsters in the deck to make use of setting up our board of monsters on the field with different monsters, while also potentially discarding Skull Servant cards from our hand to the graveyard and drawing into more of our engine. For the hand traps that we run in the deck, I'm running 3 copies of Fuelos and 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring for more draw power, and then just more or less restricting our opponents from setting up cards from their hand or sending cards off to the graveyard. For the spells, we definitely went through a lot of monsters there, but for the spells, we are running 3 copies of White Reanimator. With this continuous spell, if you're King of the Skull Servants, attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent, and once per turn, you can target 1 Skull Servant or King of Skull Servants in your graveyard, send 1 Skull Servant or 1 monster that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard to special summon that targeted monster. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn, except for zombie monsters. So, this just gives you more of an option to send a Skull Servant or 1 monster that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard to special summon that targeted monster, giving you a continuous special summon power in the form of this card, and then the piercing bow damage. And for the fact that this card can also be, searched off of our Moisa White, makes it all the easier for that setup. We're also running the 3 copies of Left Arm Offering and the 1 copy of That Grass Looks Greener. For the search, if you have 2 or more other cards in your hand, banish your entire hand, add 1 spell from your deck to your hand, and you cannot set spell traps during the turn you activate this. So this goes with the 60 cards we run to have more of the mill power with That Grass Looks Greener in the deck to send off a good number of cards from the top of our deck to the graveyard. Depending on what we send, we can either have more setup or just more of that special summon power to rely on to get our bigger boss monster along with lots of different Skull Servant monsters from our hand to the graveyard. And then for the other spells, we are running 2 copies of Where Art Thou for added level 1 search, taking additional burn damage if we don't normal summon that card as well. But still, having an additional normal summon off of Moisa White makes it all the easier to avoid this burn damage. And then the 1 card destruction, the 1 crossout designator, 1 Call by the Grave, along with the 1 Foolish Burial, the 1 for 1, the 1 Monster Reborn, and the 1 Triple Tactics Thrust to finish off the 1-ups for the spell lineup that we run in the deck. Also, for our extra deck, we are running the 2 copies of Relinquished Anima, just to have more or less a Link 1 resource to get level 1 Skull Servant monsters into our graveyard. The 1 Dark the Dark Charmer, along with the 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Haggard Lizardos, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Moon of the Closed Heaven, and the 1 Pentastag for the Link 2 monsters. The bigger links include the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, the 1 Access Code, and the 1 Underworld Goddess for just more resource take from our opponents and big boss monster finishers, with the Xyz monsters being the 1 Kinkanagashi Fucho, the 1 Slacker Magician, and the 1 number 54 Lionheart, with the last of the extra deck being the 1 Zeus as well, to be able to overlay on top of those monsters also. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, the Grass Looks Greener, having the mill of up to 20 cards if our opponent has a 40-card deck, is definitely a big part of the strategy setup. But having the reliance of cards like Moisa White can also come in handy, just being able to search out our go-to White Reanimator as well, and then being able to target a Skull Servant or King of Skull Servants in our graveyard, target send 1 additional monster from our deck as well. So if you have the summon of this card during the main phase, you can normal summon 1 level 4 lower zombie monster in addition to your normal summoner set. So if you don't go for that additional normal summon already, you can have the Moisa White Link 1 into a Link 1 monster to either take your opponent's resource or at least to set up the target in the graveyard for you to use with White Reanimator. Then being able to send a Skull Servant or monster that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard. So then with this, you can send your White Prince, special summoning back the Moisa White, so then you'll still have the additional normal summon, and then use the effect of White Prince to then send your Skull Servant and your Lady in White to the graveyard as well off of this play here. And then with that additional send, you have 2 additional monsters in your graveyard. Going for the banish of 2 Skull Servants, and this card in the graveyard can get you the King of the Skull Servants from the deck to the field as well, giving you those added resources. You still have the additional normal summon with those additional cards, but this is just 1 card setup that you did with the Moiso White, depending on the other additional cards that you may have in your hand to rely on also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Just very, very happy with the new support. It adds to so much consistency, along with some of the other cards we've gotten off of the ban list for the Skull Servants, to make this a true powerhouse of a deck. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.